Hello, everyone. Heather Holmes with KTV Fox 2 News in the San Francisco Bay Area. And joining me today is 15-year-old climate activist Sarah Goody. She lives here in the Bay Area in Marin County. Sarah, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Let's talk about the correlation between the climate crisis and the coronavirus.
Yeah, so coronavirus and the climate crisis have a lot in common between the amount of government action we've seen, the effects that the coronavirus has had on our environment, and what that tells us about what a world would look like if we took climate action and if we address the climate crisis like an emergency. And we've also seen how this COVID-19, this pandemic, has disproportionately affected communities of color and lower class, and what that tells us about the climate crisis and the correlation between the two.
Talk a little bit about what we're seeing with the environment, with so many people staying at home, so many businesses, factories shut down.
Yeah, so as shelter-in-place orders have lengthened and Americans have began adjusting to what quarantine is like and a life of being sheltered in place, it's became really hard to ignore the benefits of this emergency on nature. Several countries are experiencing dramatic falls in carbon dioxide emissions, some as much as 40%, and air qualities around the world have improved and CO2 emissions are falling. So although this seems great and it's wonderful, the reality is that it probably won't last long, and that once we get out of this pandemic and we start returning to normal life, our nature will shift back to its pre-quarantine state, and we'll be back in a world where we will be living with air pollution and this ever-growing climate emergency.
So what do you want people to take away from this time when they are quarantining? Do you want them to maybe change their habits a little bit, maybe take a little bit about what they're doing during these shelter-at-home orders and applying them once the orders are lifted?
Yeah, I think it's realizing how much of an effect your own individual actions have on this environment, and seeing that when we take action as a community and we work together as a society, that change can really happen, that we do have the power to make change and to live in a safe planet and to create a safe and a healthy green future for our children and the generations to come.
Okay.
So what I want people to leave with is that this is all real. Sorry?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. So what is it that you would like people to leave and come out of the shelter-in-place orders realizing or thinking about?
Yeah, so I'd like people to start thinking about how their actions are benefiting and how they are impacting our environment, and to look back to this time in a few months and see how our environment was adapting when we were taking less environmentally impactful actions, and to start bringing that into our everyday lives once this all ends.
Okay, some people may look at you, say you're 15. Why take on this cause, and why should people kind of listen to what you have to say?
I mean, this is my future. This is my brother's future. This is going to directly impact my life. Living in California, I've already seen the effects and the impacts of the climate crisis through wildfires. I know people who've had homes destroyed, who've lost family members due to this crisis. And I've worked with people on the front lines who have seen just how powerful this emergency is. And I don't think it's anyone's room or place to say that I shouldn't be fighting for this, or that I'm too young to care about this, because how can I be too young to care about my future?
How did you kind of get involved with this, and what is it that spurred your interest in wanting to do something about climate change?
Yeah, so this all really started in sixth grade when my science teacher introduced us to climate change through, like a month-long science program. And at first, like everyone else, I think I was kind of skeptical, like, oh God, here she goes again. Kind of not super interested. But then once she started showing us videos and started talking more about it, I realized that this was the defining issue of our generation, that if we didn't do something now, then there wouldn't be a future for us, a future for this planet, or a future for us to live on. And I drew that correlation between my life and between this planet, and how our earth gives us everything we need to survive, and we were the people doing actions to change it, and it's how it's not meant to be. So I saw how it was going to impact my life. I saw how it was going to impact the people around me, and I knew that I had to do something about it.
And I'm guessing that you're hoping that other young people will follow suit. How do you sort of foster that youth activism, whether it be, at home, at school, in communities?
Yeah, so I actually founded a nonprofit organization called Climate Now, which is focused on educating youth in my community, Marin County, about the climate crisis and about ways that they can get involved in climate action. So through there, I've been fostering a community of youth activism and of youth activists. Something that I do a lot is go speak to different schools, from elementary, middle, and high school, and I talk to kids all about climate change, what it means, and how it's going to impact their lives, and what they can do as kids to make a difference.
Okay, so what are some of the things that kids can do, like you said, to make a difference?
Well, first off, education, I think, is the most powerful tool anyone has, because you can do it yourself. And by learning more about the different things that are impacting our world and impacting our lives, then we know what we can do to create a viable solution. Another thing that I think is very important for youth to do is to exercise their rights to go join a protest or join a strike and see what it's like to stand up and to be in a group of people who all share similar passions, and to share this passion that you have with the world, and to feel like you're part of a bigger movement.
When you look at what's going on right now, obviously I'm guessing you miss your friends and you miss going to school, but and we talked a little bit about the benefits of the quarantine, but talk a little bit more about what kids can do, the action they can take once the orders and the restrictions are lifted. Because in a sense, they sort of need to follow what their parents do a little bit, right?
Yes, no, definitely. I mean, this coronavirus is insane, and it requires all of us to be following precautions and to stay in tune to that. But once these orders lift and life starts to return to normal, I think it's important for youth to learn more about different initiatives and campaigns and actions that are going on in their community, and to start joining those and getting involved with them, to as much as they can, and to work with those places to create new solutions and to fight for different actions.
What about sort of like tangible things? For example, walking more, recycling more. Are those things too that I'm guessing you encourage youth to do, but those also seem kind of easy things that kids can do. Do you have some other suggestions for
Yeah,
younger kids?
definitely. So, yeah, striking and going and joining organizations isn't always something that people can do or right for every person. So I think that independent actions and taking actions at home is also incredibly important, and something that we all need to do. And whether that means building a compost system in your backyard, planting more fruits and vegetables, and starting a home garden, or maybe that means sharing with your parents on a daily basis something new that you're learning about the climate crisis or about youth activism.
When you go and you speak to youth, are there a couple of major issues that you hit upon? For example, is it divesting from fossil fuels? Is it, trying to advocate for the Green New Deal? What is sort of that one issue that you really want, young people to sort of latch onto, and then also perhaps, lawmakers to listen to you about?
Yeah, so I think you hit it right on the spot, is divestment. Um, for example, like the CalSTRS, California's Teachers Pension Fund, has $6 billion invested in fossil fuels and in the oil and gas industries. So by going to these schools, I like to bring up those topics that not a lot of people know about, and to encourage them to start getting involved in campaigns that are focused on divestment, because I think not only is it important for youth to get involved in those, but for politicians and world leaders to advocate for.
Okay, so we're about out of time. Your lasting message to young people like yourself, especially those who are going to be watching this right now while they're kind of stuck at home amidst the pandemic.
My message to you is that you are powerful, that you have the power and you have a voice and you can make a difference with it, even when it doesn't feel like it. That just like me, you can take action and you can have a benefit on your community and do something to change the world.
And then, Sarah, your sort of lasting message, rather, to parents and to lawmakers out there who may watch this.
Yeah, this is our future. This is what your children, what your grandchildren are going to be growing up with. And as much as it's our responsibility as children to fight for this, it's also yours, and that you need to understand that how impactful your actions are, and the just total influence that you have over this generation and over the youth, because your words mean a lot.
Great. Thank you. Sarah Goody of Marin County. Appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much.